election, we're having a primary next February 16th, Tuesday the 16th, to reduce the number of candidates, and there will be 6 names on the ballot April 5th for 3 seats. We have ushers, Heather, 1 usher. If you have a question, you can kind of get her attention. She'll give you paper, you can write the question on it, and she'll bring the question to us. Just ask that you print your questions legibly. I'd like to introduce the candidates for the 2016 Neenah School Board election. This is Lori Asbury, Jean-Maurice Boyer, Marlis Brem, Marcelo Garcia, Tom Hanby, Christopher Coombs, and Jeff Spoor. Let's review the procedures for the evening. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to make an opening statement, and by random selection, Ms. Asbury will be our first person. Our timer, this is Grayer right here, will tell you when time is up. She'll give you a warning, 1 minute and 30 seconds, and because she is a middle school secretary, she knows how to handle any problems, so stop when she tells you to stop. So after the 3-minute opening comments have been concluded, we'll begin with questions from the community. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond to the same question. We will rotate which speaker begins each round of comments. No rebuttals are permitted in this format. About 7:15, we'll ask each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement before we adjourn. If your question has not been asked or you have a follow-up question, some of our candidates will be available after the forum for a brief period. Our ground rules state that there are to be no demonstrations of either support or opposition to the candidates or to their positions. Those who take part in such demonstrations will be out of order. Instead, we will thank all the candidates with our applause at the end of the evening. We thank you for observing these ground rules. So, if our timer is ready, let's begin with Ms. Asbury.
Hi, my name is Lori Asbury, and I'm very interested in running for school board. I've lived here for about 11 years, and I've got 2 kids in the district. We moved to Neenah in part because of the excellent public schools. I also wanted to mention that I come from a long history of teaching. Both my parents were teachers as well as my grandmother. And I think that teachers can basically change a person's life. So I want to do my best to make sure that our teachers are well supported at school. My career in education is varied. I went to the University of Michigan where I got a degree in political science. I've held down a number of different jobs. A lot of them taught me great service. I was in Washington, D.C. I have worked as a waitress. I've worked at an apartment community. And most recently, I've been a mother and also a volunteer for both the Neenah District for about 10 years. And I'm a member of the Neenah Menasha Emergency Society. And if you're not familiar with that organization, it's an all-volunteer organization that our main focus is basically preventing homelessness. And we do a really great back-to-school fair every year where we serve most recently about 1,000 kids, and they get backpacks, school supplies, things like that. But with the Neenah District, I've also gotten great experience where I worked in the classroom. I've also been on the Budget Oversight Committee. I'm currently part of the Human Growth and Development Committee, as well as a board member of the Neenah Music Parents. So I feel like I have a lot of great experience that I could use being on the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Asbury. Mr. Boyer.
Hi, I'm Jean-Maurice Boyer. Although the name is very French, I've lived in Neenah since '98. I was doing the math today. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else, which was a nice feeling because it's a wonderful community. I am currently on the board, so I'm one of the 3 incumbents up here today. And the reason that I feel the role of the board is so important is because public education is just critical for a vibrant community. And I think educating our children to become the future leaders is just one of the most important things we as a society can do for our own welfare. It's also critical to attract new businesses and new residents and to enhance the welfare of members of all of our communities. I mean, ultimately, for me, it seems like the easiest investment decision for our community. One of the biggest, best return on investments is investing in our public schools. My children has grown up in the Neenah school system. He's now at Horace Mann. My education, I have an undergraduate from Colorado College in political science and economics. I have an MBA from the University of Minnesota. Hope you won't hold that against me. My professional experience, I've done 20 years of marketing and finance. Kimberly Clark brought me here. I was in brand management for 10 years there. And over time, one of the things that I found when I was at Kimberly Clark is they really didn't give you a lot of time to get involved in the community. And so when I decided to spend more time at home to raise our son, it really gave me a great opportunity to be involved in the community. And over time, that role has grown. I am very involved with the United Way. I am vice chair of an impact panel that is focused on children and youth development. I see one of the other impact panel members here. And one of the great things that gives me is an understanding of all of the great organizations in the broader Fox Valley community that are focused on kids. And that is one of the things I feel I bring to the board is awareness of a lot of community and activities and community initiatives that are going on. And I think at this point, I'll kind of cut short there, but I really have enjoyed the 3 years I've been on the board and would be honored if you would vote to keep me in for another 3 years.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. Now, Ms. Brem.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marla Sprum. I've lived in Neenah my entire life. Sans a few years I went to college. I'm 24 years old, and I'm running for the school board because I feel that there is a big need for younger people to be involved in our community. I work for Best Friends of Neenah Menasha right now, which is a mentoring agency right across the river, and it is amazing to me how few people my age are involved in our community as far as volunteerism and other things of that nature. So I'm running because I want to be a voice for my generation and people my age. I went to school at UW-Madison for 3 years, and then I went to UW-Oshkosh and graduated with a degree in human services. I recently accepted a position at J.J. Keller, so I'm not only involved in the nonprofit community, but I'm also now headed towards the for-profit, which I'm very excited about. And I think the diversity of having nonprofit and for-profit experience will really be an asset to working on a board because there are so many awesome programs in our community for our kids and so many awesome programs for adults. And I think getting everybody involved with nonprofits would really be an awesome connection for our school and for our community. I currently volunteer at the Boys and Girls Brigade, and I'm also up at their Camp Onaway. And it's something that I'm really passionate about and I really love doing. At Best Friends, I work with more of the at-risk kids, and they are fabulous. So I'm really excited to be a part of something a little bit bigger and hopefully get a voice for our at-risk kids and for my generation for the school board. So thank you very much for all being here today.
Thank you, Ms. Brem. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. And my last name is Hispanic, and I am Hispanic, and I have been here in this community since 2001 in the town of Menasha. I am originally from Ecuador, South America, and how I ended up here is because I married my beautiful wife, Susan, who's from Neenah. I have lived in the States before. I was in Madison from 1994 to 1999, where I served in the board of directors of the Madison Community Cooperatives organization that had 8 houses with a budget of $3 million at that time. I was later elected to be president of that organization. I went to Washington, D.C. as a member of the future youth groups of cooperatives back in 1997. I also volunteered for the Rainbow Bookstore in Madison and for Centro Hispano also in Madison. I have always had a passion to serve the community. Recently, I have been volunteering with the parks and recs of the town of Menasha. It gave me the opportunity to get to know different parks that our community that have not known. Back in 2006, here in the area, I started a nonprofit organization called Casa Hispana, which is still up and running and just merged recently with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Wisconsin. That is a nonprofit organization that serves the Hispanic community in this area. My experience with nonprofits, my experience volunteering, and my education as speech therapist, and having worked in the Menasha and school district as a paraprofessional as for ALL, English language learners, and having taught Spanish for foreigners, I have some insights about education. My desire to become in the board is to bring diversity to the school board. Diversity that our city shows, it should also show in the school board as well. I have different ideas. I have a different background. Education is different in this country that is different in my country. And I want to bring those ideas to the board here. So I will be honored if you give me the opportunity to serve in the education board of the Neenah School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. We're going to ask Mr. Handy next.
Good evening.
I think you just turned it
I'll turn it on. Good evening, Tom Handy, 706 East Forest Avenue in Neenah. I've lived in Neenah since 1998, I guess, when my son Cody was born. We was originally an attendee at Roosevelt School just down the street from our house, and at that period of time there was a great deal of turmoil within the school district, not caused by anybody realistically, but just by the matters of facts of the time. I was asked to get involved at that point in time in the facility committee and be involved in where the future of the schools might go, and I did so. And what had happened originally, I guess the reason I was invited into that was I went to the one school board, I voiced my opinion, I told them exactly what I thought and still think, and I promised them that I didn't come down one time to shoot my mouth off and then was going to be gone forever, and I seldom miss a Tuesday night board meeting since that my son was in kindergarten, so, and he's a senior out at the high school this year, and with any luck he'll be done this year. So that said, that's kind of been my interest in it. I've always acted essentially like a self-appointed governing body. It's not so imperative what I do, but it's imperative that someone is always around to see what's going on, to know what's going on, and share with others. And that's a role I took on when I promised I wasn't going to go away. This is not a one-time thing. That's when I started going regularly. Since then, I filled the vacancy in the 07-08 school year when we had a resignation. I filled the vacancy. That was when we were running referendum, and it seemed like an excellent time to get involved when I was kind of up to speed on the issues from being around all the time. Not that there weren't other equally qualified people who wanted the job and could have done it, but it was a matter of I was pretty well versed and didn't need to be caught back up. Since then, just for a lot of home reasons and business reasons, I've stepped away from running for the board for a couple of years, and now the last few years I've run again, and it is my goal to serve our community on the school board. I'm well educated on the issues of our school district. I'm the one person who is offended when people get up and leave the meeting early because their topic's been covered. I stay for each meeting to the end, see what's going on, and I find that gives me a hugely intertwined knowledge, not just of the issues that I'm passionate about, but how they dovetail in and tie into the grander scheme of the whole educational process, which a great portion of our community miss out on when they don't follow the event regularly. So with any luck, you folks will find that I'm suitable to fill a position on the board again, and if that works out, I'll see you every other Tuesday night, and if that doesn't work out, I will see you every other Tuesday night down in the same boardroom. And then just a real idea here on my background quickly. I've been around home improvement and construction all my life. I went out of high school basically directly into work for the Menards Corporation, which definitely knows how to manage money, and from there I moved on to a small home building firm where I've been working ever since. Thank you for coming this evening, and thank the League of Voter Voters.
Thank you, Mr. Handy. Mr. Combs.
Christopher Combs, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know the weather's been kind of dicey, and with all the debates on TV, it's amazing to see so many people here, so that's great. Also, I need to sneak out of here early, so when I sneak out before 7, it's not because somebody said something, it's because I have another commitment I need to go to. Very quickly, I'm on the school board because of passion. It really started with my mom, who worked with kids who were about to be tried as adults, kids who came from really tough neighborhoods, really impossible situations, and she fought for them with passion. And I tried to follow in her footsteps. And I got my degree in psychology. I took some internships, and I quickly realized I didn't have the drama in my childhood to be able to relate to these kids who struggled so much. And for me, I felt maybe I didn't have anything to give to them. So I did other things. I managed people, I managed projects, and then decades later, I rediscovered that passion again. I realized I did have something to give. Basically, I took my experience in managing difficult projects, diverse group of people, dealing with budgets and tight deadlines, and I found my beginning again. And so today, right now, the situations out there are complex. They're intertwined, they're community-based. School districts right now face a lot of challenges, but so do community members, so do teachers, so do parents, and especially students. They all do. And as a school board member, the trick is to balance all those different groups. So my goal is to continue what I've been doing, and that is support students and strengthen communities. And I will do it with passion. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. And finally, Mr. Spohr.
Hi, my name is Jeff Spohr, and I'm the third incumbent that's running. Christopher was the other one. And I've been on the board now for 9 years. And I've lived in Neenah for over 20 years. And hearing everybody else how long they've been here, apparently I'm the senior person, which is kind of surprising because there's a lot of people in Neenah that have stayed forever. I only came in 92. But I got involved with the school board initially back during the referendum in 06-07. I was reading in the paper about how the administration, they had used up the budget surplus, and the board was kind of surprised by that and was wondering about a plan, where were they going to get money, how are they going to fund the programs, how are they going to handle this, and I started writing letters, and various people encouraged me to run for the board, to put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. And so I ran, and I was elected, and I've been privileged to serve now for 9 years. My work experience for the last 25 years has been in group insurance in various roles, and in the last few years I found that experience has come to play with the board because I'm the only one with that experience in group insurance and benefits. Benefits is the second biggest part of the employee costs, salaries and benefits, and that is the largest part of the entire budget. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that. I'm trying to keep the board focused on what's coming up. I am very proud to have been on the board, and I think the current administration has done a very nice job of coming forth with plans. We talk about 5-year plans. We're always talking about next year and the year after, how budgets, what we do now will affect something down the road. We've been able to invest in improvements at the schools. Some of it is boring, like new windows. and roofs. And we're working and trying to find some ways to do some more exciting things. There's been birdies talking about some improvements to Pickard, for example. So that's all I've got. I've been happy to serve. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spoor. Now, we're going to be switching to 2-minute time periods, and we will be starting the first question for Mr. Boyer. And that means you get a breather, Ms. Asbury. We'll come back to you. But don't let me forget you, because, okay. And if, by the time we get to you, if anybody needs me to read the question again, just let me know and we'll read it again. What 3 priorities will you, as a Neenah School District Board of Education member, have in your term? What 3 priorities will you have, and how will you go about accomplishing these priorities? And we'll start with Mr. Boyer.
In 1.5 minutes. There are 3 areas that I have a lot of passion about. The first is, while we have great schools and we have good results in those schools, when you look at the test scores, either the Badger scores or the ACT scores, we have room for further improvement. So continuing to keep a focus on student outcomes, particularly in math and language arts, I think those are key to future success for our kids, and so that's one area. The second is student mental health. We've made a big step in the right direction by hiring a student mental health coordinator who's in the room. Dr. Ultra Cruz was a great addition to the district staff, and we are thrilled to have him. And I think as a board, continuing to have the conversation of, within our existing budgets, what can we do, where can we focus our priorities, and what partnerships can we create and sustain, because we already have some great partnerships with community organizations, including the United Way. And the third one is somewhat tied to the 2 and tied to a lot of other issues that we control to greater and lesser extent. I think as a board we can continue to grow our role with legislative advocacy. There are a lot of decisions that are made in Madison, and I think being part of that conversation as the 24th largest district in the state is a critical component. We are already doing a lot. Our superintendent is very active in a regional superintendent group. There are legislative breakfasts once a month where quite a few legislators attend. Oh, I'm out of time, sorry.
Thank you.
Anyway, those are my 3.
Yep. Ms. Frame, you're next. Sorry.
Thank you. 3 priorities in 2 minutes. Okay. My very first one will be at-risk kids. I know I said a little bit in my intro, but these are kids that are forming our community. They're the ones who are staying here. They're the ones who are working in our grocery stores. They're the ones who are working on the road crews and our paper mills. And I really want to make sure that they have the job training and the life skills coming out of their homes, whether they're in single-parent homes or affected by addiction or divorce or anything like that, that they come out with life skills and job training that really focuses on these kids. And I guess that's for the entire, my second one is job training and life skills for all of our students. That they come out and they go into college and that they're already ready to be productive members. That they could go right into the workforce and just move mountains. So that's my second one. And the third one is making Neenah Joint School District a destination for teachers. That's a place that they want to work, that they want to be. And I know that with the legislative breakfasts and things like that, we have a really great opportunity to be a voice in our government. And I think it would be a really awesome opportunity for us to say, come to Neenah, we're doing things differently, we're making this a really great place to work. And because our kids are completely affected by the teachers in our district, and we have some really amazing teachers, and we need to keep them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Frame. Mr. Garcia?
One of the things that the 2 panelists have already addressed is in regards to the mental health, and that should be one of my priorities and everybody's priorities is to improve the special education in the district. I think there is probably a little bit or non-existent pretty much, and if there is something, there is not very well run. So special education will be one of the priorities. The district has moved towards that by hiring psychologists, which is a great improvement. Now we need to make sure that actually they are implementing some programs and communicate with the parents that there are some those services in the school district. Sometimes it appears that the communication between the district and the parents are not there. So that's going to be my other priority, to make sure that there is a communication between the district and the parents. And for that, I will be open to receive any suggestions from the parents from the school district. And the other priority, which is tied to pretty much to how the school board and how the district runs, is the budget part of that. Make sure that the money we have, which is not much because every time the school district budget gets cut, is utilized in the most effective way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Handy.
Good evening. My three priorities, the first one would be fiscal responsibility. And that's not nearly as cold as what that sounds. I have no problem whatsoever spending your money. I have no problem investing in your children and grandchildren and your neighbors' kids. I'm interested that we spend the money that we do spend in the most effective ways, whether that's additional teachers in the classrooms and keeping class sizes low, or whether that's additional parapros to help out the teachers so they can be most effective in the roles they need. My interest is that in the end, if we spend our money wisely, we won't find ourselves where we were between 06 and 08, where the school district is for all practical purposes broke and trying to figure out now on a whim how to completely reinvent our school system, which has worked but's created nothing but hardship for anybody that in the district since that whole process began. My next goal would be to try to have an issue or a situation in which our staff felt more heard. And of course, feeling more heard doesn't mean that you're going to be any more satisfied, but I do believe that we should have a different venue or a forum for contacting our staff. Way back when I was on the board, we did have monthly meetings with staff, which were significantly underattended by staff. But the fact remains, at least we had some avenue once a month where we had at least a gesture of getting together and exchanging ideas. Far too often I hear from staff they're not thrilled with what is going on, but they don't feel that there's an outlet to handle it other than every 2 weeks at a board meeting, and then that's completely in a public setting. And then the next thing that I would wish to garner, and I have absolutely no idea how I would achieve it, would be greater community involvement. Unfortunately, I'm not good with names, but I'm pretty sure if I was, I could go up and down the road here and I could name every single person in this room. And the reason being is they're the exact same people that were in this room every time that I've attended a voters forum, whether I was a candidate or watching. And I would like more people to come to the regular meetings and voice their views their opinion in the community, so the board members could make decisions more effectively on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Handy. Mr. Coons.
Thank you. I have several priorities. I'll try to get through them really quickly here. But really, first and foremost is student learning. I look at several different groups. One is that those kids in the middle, they don't do enough things wrong. They don't excel enough to get as noticed as maybe they should be. Really kind of connecting them with teachers, connecting them with anyone in the school, making that personal connection, and really trying to do something with that middle group. At the same time, we have struggling kids. I like to be more proactive with that. Most of the time what happens is we wait till there's a problem and then we try to deal with it, instead of trying to deal with what we know is already a problem there and trying to get to it before it shows up. And another area, in the one priority, but that's maybe all I'll have time for, is special education. We don't talk about special education enough. I think and sometimes, the view is we do what we have to do. I want to make sure we're doing everything we can. Every kid deserves a great education. Every kid deserves an opportunity. So those are my three in that just in student learning, but I'd also love to do greater community development, or connecting with the community. I'd like to see a greater partnership between the school and the city, for instance. I'd love to see it with all we have in this city. We have a lot. We have headquarters of several different companies here. We need to make that greater connection with the companies that are here and connect kids with real life situations. So those are okay. So where was I at? Sorry. Yeah. So I really like to again I already come from look at the schools from a community standpoint, and so community is very important to me. We talk about good communities. Good communities need great schools, and great schools need great communities. I want to pull those two together. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Spore?
Well, I'll just bring in some other things that haven't been mentioned so far. One is technology. We've done a great job. A few years ago, we put in our own wireless network, and that laid the groundwork for a lot of the one-to-one devices that we're expanding even more. The high school is now fully one-to-one, and as was pointed out by our technology director, it's not just one-to-one because the kids they may have their computer, they'll have a tablet, they may have a Fitbit, they may have a phone, they may have 4 or 5 devices. So having the bandwidth for all of that is going to be continue to take investment on our part, and hopefully I think we're one of the best districts in the state on that, so hopefully we can stay there, and that will take some investment. Another priority would be, as Christopher said, the community partnerships, Plexus, Bemis, Kimberly-Clark. We've got some, but it'd be great to have more. I'd also like to see some more focus put on for the kids that are maybe looking at the trades. We've got an excellent program in the automotive and with STEM and with welding and those types of things. We've got the health academy, we've got a food academy, and those are all great things that should have more opportunities. It should be more about than just trying to get into a 4-year college, because if that's not what you want to do, you don't need to go there. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next question, we have Ms. Asbury answering. I told you I might do that.
Ready? Go.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm obviously technically challenged. My number one priority would probably be working toward maintaining, recruiting, and training our wonderful staff. And I think it's a place where we've gone through a lot of change since Act 10. There have been a lot of things that have gone on that, from the employee handbook to contracts to changes in just about everything. And I think it would be great to work a little bit toward, instead of having kind of an environment of, it's difficult to go through that much change, but instead of having a fear of the unknown, maybe work more towards building trust, climate of trust with our teachers, and do something like reach out to them, let them have a voice, listen to what they have to say, how they might change things, maybe create an independent panel of staff members that could field information and report back, and actually have our staff feel like also they're heard and something is done positively about that. I also have a big focus on mental health and the at-risk programs. One of the things that I had the pleasure to do was work with the staff at Neenah High School to help implement the Orbit Closet. And for those of you that may not know what that is a supply area and a great resource for any kid that needs something, whether it's food, clothing, bus pass, shoes, anything like that. And I Also helped to put together some stuff where they could work with St. Joe's for weekend backpack food for some of the kids. And I guess the last thing is further our destination district approach. Sorry, I guess I got to stop. I think we need to do stuff to set ourselves apart. Special education, things like that, to be a destination district, certainly.
Question number 2 is actually combining two. I've been asked to combine a couple of questions. And it has to do with the teacher effectiveness project. So let me know if you need me to reread this. What are your thoughts on the effectiveness project? After 3 years, is it working? Do you feel it is affecting teacher morale? Neenah is one of the few districts to tie the effectiveness project into compensations and salary. Do you agree, or do you feel that we need to change this? So this is all about the effectiveness project, teacher morale, and whether it should be tied to teacher compensation or not. And we're starting with Ms. Brown on this round.
I attend all the board meetings, and I will be honest, after attending for 2 years, I still don't understand the entire teacher effectiveness project. So it's a lot to get through, and I can't believe that our teachers understand everything that they have to do. It really is extremely complicated. In my opinion, not knowing every detail of this project, I can see why it is beneficial to have our compensation and salary based on how they're doing with the teacher effectiveness project. However, I think if our staff is having an issue with it, that's something we need to talk about. That if the teachers feel they're not being heard, the teachers feel that they're not being graded fairly, that's something that we should be talking about as a district. I think if after 3 years, like I said, if they're not understanding how this is working and they're not feeling that this is working, then we should really be talking about it. Can you repeat the last part of the question for me? Sorry.
Should it be tied to teacher compensation?
I do think it is. I think if it's been working, that should continue to do that. But if, like I said, if the teachers really feel that this is unfair, that we should be talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brim. Mr. Garcia.
I'll start with the teacher morale part of that thing. I don't want to bring politics in this, but you have to bring politics in here. I think after 10, the morale of not only teachers but all the public employees went down, has stayed down, and they're keeping down. There's no, instead of increasing their benefits, giving some incentives, they are being punished more and more and more, and that needs to somehow stop. This is in regards to the teacher effectiveness project. I'm not quite familiar with that, to be honest with you. But what I do imply in that, and I have always been scratching my head about that, is how the education system in this country works, which is different to the country where I come from, Ecuador. In Ecuador, we evaluate the students, so that we don't have a standardized test like they do here. It feels that that puts a lot of pressure on the teachers, and the teachers teach, so the students pass that. And that's not a good service to the students, because they are not teaching, they're training, they're not educating them, because the teachers feel a lot of pressure that the students need to perform well, because that is attached to his salary. That can be an effective way to do that. And I'm not happy with that. The teachers the teacher's salary should be tied to how the student performs. A lot of issues have to do how the student performs. Some students come from different countries. They English not well yet, like mine. I'm still working in that after 20 years in here. There are just some mental issues, special educations, and the teachers feel that you know, it's not fair. And I feel too that's not fair to tie how the student performs to how the teacher should be paid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Handy.
Regarding the teacher effectiveness project, I would say I'm mirroring what I've heard already. It's somewhat of a mystery if you're not a part of it. I don't think it was made entirely public, whether that was on purpose or not on purpose, or it's just too much to digest. But attending every single board meeting was not enough for me to entirely understand the teacher effectiveness program. That said, that dovetails back into my discussion that we need to find a broader way for our faculty, not just teachers, but all of our faculty to be involved with the decisions that are going to ultimately take place at the board. Understanding how the teachers feel about that and what other advice they have for us to guide them. The teachers presumably have the same goal that the administration and the board members have, which is to turn out the best students we can in the very best manner that we can, in the simplest manner for all. So that said, if we maintain the teacher's effectiveness program, or when we ultimately tweak it to be something different, I think absolutely wages should be tied to that. Otherwise, there's really any sense of an effectiveness project at all. Do the same thing we did for 120 years in Neenah and just hope for the best. Obviously, the goal is for improvement on behalf of the students and on behalf of the faculty. And regarding the teacher morale, I think it definitely has brought an impact on teacher morale, as has our wonderful one-to-one devices and many other things. In the last 5 years, we've asked more of our teachers than we've ever asked for them in the past, and we ask for it for an equal amount or less money than we've ever provided. So it is understandable that the teachers' morale is down to some degree, and other faculty as well. I think the goal is to get an honest, open communication where everybody feels they have a part of it. That is a big part of coming to the meetings, staying at the meeting, and understanding what other items are going on that aren't just your key hot topics, so that we have a chance to achieve that goal together. Obviously, together we can do things, and alone we really don't accomplish much.
Thank you, Mr. Handy. Mr. Coons.
Thank you. I'll start with tying it to pay. And one of the reasons the effectiveness project is to have a vehicle for how to increase salaries for teachers. That's one of the main reasons. So to not tie it to it would miss the point. I think it's interesting when you think about teachers and what they do all day. They evaluate other people. They give them grades that affect their future, what school they go to, all those kinds of things. So it's interesting that at the same time I think, and I get it, no one wants to be evaluated. Any place I've been, I've evaluated people and I've been evaluated. It's tough on both sides. Nobody likes it. And so from that standpoint, yes, I can see that has an impact on teachers. Although I think the bigger issue is my sister taught in St. Paul, actually just retired. Part of the reason she retired was just getting too hard. Teaching is a tough job. We'll make it more and more difficult. There's a lot of pressure put on teachers to perform. And we get it because it's kids in classrooms, and it's an important thing we can't fail on. But it's a tough profession, and it's getting more difficult every day. And I think we look at morale, it's that pressure that's put on teachers to perform, and this testing and all those scores. So I think that's the bigger issue. How do we do that? How do we give them professional development? How do we give them the opportunities so it's not this pressure cooker that it is right now? But ultimately, I think we need to look at it. We've all had. I remember I had some great teachers. Miss Medcalf, Miss Wilson. I know their names from grade school. They were great teachers. They made an impact. I've had some bad teachers. We all have had one or two in there. There's a like any profession. I think we have a lot less in teaching because you see it so much clearer. But teaching is so important. It has such an impact on student learning that we need to do everything we can to make sure it's the best. But give teachers some breathing room.
Thank you. Mr. Spore.
Yeah, I think it's been a great opportunity for good teachers, great teachers, to get rewarded for that. I mean, this is America, where they always say, you work hard, you can succeed. You can get ahead. Anyone can grow up to be president. You can invent the newest mousetrap and you can get rich. So a great teacher doing great work is not pigeonholed into a specific race. They can get extra amounts they can get bonuses with through the effectiveness project. Additionally, 3 years ago, I was downsized from a company where for the last 10 years that I was there, we had to do similar things. I had to show how I was meeting all of the company objectives. I don't see it as any real difference than the effectiveness project for the teachers. So I'm not asking them to do anything that I haven't done. I have to show that I deserve a raise if I want it. I've never just gotten a raise. I've always had to perform to get it. So I have no problem with that at all. It may be complicated. It's still getting, it's only in its third year, and maybe there are ways that we can improve it, streamline it, make it a little bit better. But I think it's been a great thing for the district, and I think it's only going to get better.
Thank you, Mr. Sport. Ms. Asbury.
Sorry about that. Yes, I absolutely do think that the effectiveness project is having an impact on teacher morale. Again, I'd go back to how much change they've gone through in a very short period of time. And I think one of the biggest things that maybe you could do with a teacher incentive program is to actually reward the things that make a great teacher. And those might be collaboration, teamwork, sharing ideas with colleagues, things like that. I don't agree with performance pay, something being tied to results on the kids' tests, for example. I think that can lead to teachers feeling obligated to teach to the tests. I think there's a lot of things that can affect student performance that the teachers don't have any control over. So I basically feel like it does have an impact on the teacher morale, and I think we should definitely revisit it and find out some ways that we could maybe find some middle ground, because definitely people do need to have a performance review. There's nothing wrong with a little constructive criticism. It allows personal growth, but I don't agree that it should be tied to performance. So thank you.
Thank you. Boy, this is a tough one. I've been on the board for 3 years. I still feel like I'm getting my arms wrapped around this topic, partly because it's evolved each year. I think there's hope in the fact that it's evolving each year. At least there's a willingness to admit that they had room for improvement, and I hope they continue to see that. Ultimately, as little as I enjoyed performance evaluations in my past, I think we all want to know how we're doing. I think what is problematic is if we feel we're being measured against elements that we have little control over, or if we are being measured in a way that is different than your peers. And I'm talking at a theoretical level, and I think it still applies at our district level. As a board, I am proud of the fact that we have every year for the last 3 years set aside a relatively large amount of money to go into rewarding teachers that we feel, or the administration has determined, have done a great job. I think one of the challenges is, as a board member, I'm not sure I'm very clear on how those funds are allocated. Ultimately, for this to work, we need to continue to work on managing the amount of time that's required to run the program, make a very significant effort on increasing the trust level for those that are being evaluated, continue to improve the credibility, and hold ourselves as a district accountable for meaningful professional learning development. I don't think the system as it's working now is working in a way that's serving our district. I think having a system in place that provides effectiveness measurement, and particularly that provides people constructive feedback, is useful, but I don't think we're there yet.
Thank you.
We're going to start with Mr. Garcia for question number 3. How could you generate conversation with other school districts, boards of education, to form a coalition to put pressure on the state legislature to adequately fund K-12 education? So how can you reach out to other school districts, board members, to form a coalition to address education concerns at the state level? Mr. Garcia?
Not having been in the board, and I don't know if this has been done or not, but the most effective way and the most to do that is probably attending other school boards, inviting members of the other school boards to a meeting to discuss what problems are they facing, what are the successes they have and how they're achieving that, what does the school or the education in general needs, and having some brainstorming sessions with members of the school board from the different districts in the area will be one way to achieve that. And coming up with that, make some legislative action days where the board members or some of the board members go to Madison, talk to the assembly members, to the senators, state senator members, and telling them what do we need, what do we want to be done. Inviting assembly senators to the board meetings so they can hear what we need and what it's that will be some of the ways we can achieve these things. But in the end, having an open communication nowadays is easier. We have the social media, we have all those things. Makes easier to communicate. Having a group email with the different board members so I can communicate, that will be an easy way to do that.
Hi, as far as generating a conversation with other districts, I think is an incredible idea. I think that right there is the start of it. I think the administration's already doing some work and the school board's kind of joined in, not necessarily spearheaded it, but by attending the administrative breakfast once a month so that we get a chance to, or legislative breakfast rather, so we get an opportunity to speak at least to the few of the electors who have the sense to come and speak with us. I think the question is really would have to be evaluated by the board is if we're being served well by the superintendent of public instructions in Madison. Really that's where a great deal of the budget ideas are coming from, and the information that ultimately finds its way onto the desks of everyone in Madison who's choosing comes from that particular locale. The other flip side of that, of course, is budgets are budgets, and they seldom get much bigger. They just cost more. They don't really provide any more funding for anything. And looking for equity or fairness in public education funding, I think, has kind of died long, long ago. I'm not exactly sure how to restart that conversation at a point at Madison, but over the years, speaking with the other legislatures, they said, well, we really can never change that funding ratio that we have, which was decided 35 or 40 years ago for the individual schools, because that means some district would get less, and then their representatives would oppose that. So the thing's so big, there's so much funding that does come out of Madison, even though we get left shorthanded, is as far as ever getting it to be equitable and fair again, I'm not entirely sure that that's a hill that we can fight up. We can work up it. We can try to have them change the budget from year to year a little bit to allow additional funding in education. But a bigger component is where the state's reserves are spent out within the districts based on their needs. We were penalized for having been responsible years ago.
I think I look at it slightly differently. I think it'd be great to get all the different boards together to talk about best practices, a bunch of things, the way they can improve and learn from each other. I think trying to go after the budget from a force standpoint that somehow the boards are going to have some kind of control. I mean, Act 10 was a great example. There was great opposition, You couldn't get better opposition, but it went through anyways. I don't think that pulling the school boards together is going to change what happens in Madison. I do think there's some opportunity. I would love to see, looking at a budget, particularly trying to utilize county money and other money to pull into schools. Right now, we have to deal with poverty. If we don't deal with poverty overall, it makes everything more difficult in schools. And I would love to see schools open from 6 in the morning till 10 at night and pull in dollars from the county and everything else, instead of having splinter organizations all trying to help kids where they already go, where they already feel comfortable, and have a place where they can go get homework done, get a meal, feel safe, all those different kind of places. To me, I think those are the kind of places we can make some movement in trying to deal with some of the issues. I don't think we're going to change Madison the way they fund it. It certainly is going to. Meanwhile, there are some great things going on, legislative breakfasts, other kinds of things that I think we had some great conversations with legislators and friendly conversations, and try to attack this problem in that way and try to show them what we've got and try to show them what we need and try to give them good examples about how we can make things better and how they can be a part of it and how schools can be a part of it. Again, my dream is to have that school open and have it be a sanctuary for kids. Thanks.
Which is another organization, more grassroots based. I've had the pleasure of building personal connections with school board members in other districts. I've actually gone to other school board meetings. Some would think that would be a glutton for punishment, but I found it interesting just to contrast their meetings to ours and see if there are things that we might incorporate. I think one opportunity for us down the road is to figure out a way to constructively discuss some of the upcoming legislative bills within the school board meeting context. We try very hard, and we've actually done a very good job as a board of remaining very collaborative and civil to each other regardless of what our political views are. And so the challenge is to have that conversation without getting into the more traditional silos of politics. But I think there is an opportunity for us to do that. And when we think of the Fox cities as, in my mind, being maybe one of the third or fourth largest group of school districts, we really do have the opportunity to be unified and to have a voice and to attend those listening sessions. Appleton Area School District does a nice job of sending representatives to those listening sessions and speaking on behalf of districts. And I think Neenah can do more, but I think behind the scenes, you would be proud of what Neenah is currently already doing. But I think that is an opportunity for us. I keep going over my time. Sorry, Debbie.
Thank you. Ms. Brown.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with a lot of people on this board. I think continuing to go to the legislative breakfast is something that's definitely a must. I go to the Menasha school board meetings as well as the Neenah school board meetings, talking about a glutton for punishment. And it is amazing how similar we are. So I think, like Lori said, when we educate our lobbyists on these issues and educate the people who are making these decisions on what we as a community and we as an entire northeastern Wisconsin want, when Menasha, Kimberly, Little Chute all show up saying the same thing, saying this is what we want and this is how we want it, they really have to listen.
If public involvement is important, how will you seek out feedback from the community that will help you develop an informed position on issues that are facing people working with students every day? I hope that's not too complicated, but how important is it that our district board meetings have public involvement, and along with that, how would you get that involvement and that feedback? How important is it that open records laws are followed and that there are transparent discussions? And we're starting with Mr. Hanby, if you're ready.
Yes, I think it's vitally important that our meetings are open and transparent and follow the appropriate open meetings laws. One way that I see for improvement in there, I've kind of asked for over the years, and it definitely brings forth its troubles, which I can see perhaps why it hasn't been implemented or addressed in any real fashion. But for those of you that are familiar with the board meetings, in the beginning we have an open forum session, which gives you an opportunity to air everything that you have to say about the whole meeting. And then throughout the meeting, the board may discuss multiple topics. Once the topic's discussed, you think to yourself, oh my goodness, I wish I would have told them this, because now that I heard that fact, this dovetails in. So I think prior to making decisions, it would be good if there was a second or a third or a fourth round of open forums and that were very time limited. In the beginning, we try to limit people to only 5 minutes, but we really don't limit them. We give you your chance to say, take your time, do your thing, but then a short 30-second opportunity to speak prior to a decision being made and after the board has had an opportunity to mull over all the things and they kind of have in their mind what's going on, that the public would get a last opportunity to interject what's going on. And as far as public involvement goes, it would be one of those same kind of arrangements if we can get people to the meeting. The other thing is, if anybody's reached out to find me, you'll discover my digital footprint's incredibly small. So if anybody wants to speak to me or get ideas from me or hear any other the foolish things I have to say, you can dial a phone. We still have one hanging on the wall, 920-725-7055. Leave a message on our machine. Yes, we still have one. If you don't reach us directly, I will call you back. That's what I did when I was on the board previously. I'll do that as we move on. I think the face-to-face, or at least the minimum of voice-to-voice conversation, carries an entirely different tone than an email, than a text, than any variety of different things that don't include human interchange.
Thank you. Mr. Swarth.
Well, it is important for community involvement, and we've done a lot of things based on community involvement over the years. Some small, some fairly significant. There is the open session at the beginning, and one of the other things that the board does is generally at the first meeting of the month, we discuss a topic, but we don't vote on it till the second meeting. And so there's another opportunity for the public to make another comment. They also have the 2 weeks in between board meetings, the first and third Tuesdays of the month. They have that time in between to send emails, to call. Emails that come in do get sent to all the board members. They're very good about sending those to us, and we do abide by all the open records laws of the state and Robert's Rules of Order. And I'm sorry, Mr. Hamby, but I don't know that I want to have 3 or 4 rounds of open forum, because I'd like to get home sometime before midnight on some of those meetings. But sometimes I know that some of the committees do have an open forum at the beginning and at the end. I know Finance and Personnel does. And so there are lots of ways to engage the community. I just encourage them to pick up the phone and call us and email us, stop us in the street at the store. We can talk a little bit. I'm not going to get into a half-hour discussion at the grocery store, but maybe we can plan something later.
Ms. Asbury.
Okay. Yes, I believe that it is extremely important for there to be transparency and to somehow encourage, again, that feeling of trust. These meetings have to be well attended and open, and I encourage people. I don't think it's super easy to find the information about what the board meetings are going to be, but it's gotten better and better with board docs. So everyone can take a look online on the Neenah Joint website and find school board, and then look up what's going to happen at any upcoming meeting. And then if you scroll down, you'll also find things that you'll probably be very interested in, and you'll be able to go to those meetings. I think communication is key, and again, that environment of trust will allow people to speak up, and no matter what is brought forth, it should be treated with respect. I also think that, as far as how would I reach out as a board member and try to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on, I would continue to volunteer in the schools. I'm there quite often. My kids are very active. I'm part of everything that they do. I routinely reach out to teachers. I'm part of, and administrators. I do a lot of teacher appreciation type things. I would attend any kind of events and things where, school district events, games, things like that. I would visit the schools as well and interview the teachers, if they had a chance, or just meet with the administrators, take them a cup of coffee or something. And I would also be very open and reach out to, family, friends, and community members. You could do meetings at the library or something like that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyer.
I think all the great ideas have been covered, and they really are great ideas. Yes, absolutely in favor of openness. I think when we, if you think of a spectrum, open, less open, the more we are towards less open, the more problems we cause ourselves. It sets us back every time. There are some issues that need to be discussed in private. There's very explicit rules about what those topics are, and I think we need to stick diligently to those guidelines, not just because those are the legal requirements, but because that is the right thing to do. As a board member for the last 3 years, it has been a pleasure for me to get into the schools. I was very involved with a number of schools before I became on the board. My son is a fifth grader. We've been in 4 schools since we started in the school system. That actually has been a good thing. It's been a good thing because Nicholas has had wonderful teachers in all 4 of those schools. It's been a good thing because I've actually gotten to know a lot more staff as a result of that. I've gone to parent group meetings uninvited multiple times, happy to introduce myself, and I found those very valuable. So while my son is years away from being at the high school, I've happily gone to high school parent meetings and just amazed at what's going on in our district. Also through my United Way role, I've really gotten a chance to meet a lot of other people who are very committed to the kids in our community. And so as a result, I think continuing to seek out the feedback, because I think it was Michelle who pointed out in one of these forums, we don't hear from people as much as we think we will. So the onus is on us to seek out comments, feedback, and to continue to reinforce that people can have a conversation with us, and we will respect their views, and we will do the best we can to incorporate their ideas into reaching the best decisions.
Thank you. Ms. Brown.
I think it's absolutely vital that the open forum and open record laws are followed closely. I think it really does a lot for parent morale. When a parent shows up, they say how they feel, and then they're responded to. I think that is a connection that's absolutely vital. I wish that there was a follow-up forum, kind of as Tom said, maybe just one short one right afterwards. Because I feel like some parents come in, they say how they feel, the topic is discussed, and then they leave frustrated because they didn't get to ask those follow-up questions. And when they're coming back week after week, bringing up the same issues, obviously their questions aren't being answered. So I think it would be a really great thing if there was a follow-up forum, because I think if one parent has the question, most likely another parent has the same question. So a personal email from that parent to an administrator might not be the best way to communicate the way that the district is dealing with things. I think it's really vital, like Lori said, to have access to the board docs, let everybody know what the board's doing at all times, and what topics will be discussed at those meetings. As far as getting feedback from parents and students, I think it's really important to, like I said, be in the schools, be present, be at the games, be in plays, be all over the place, asking teachers, talking to them in the grocery store for a half an hour if that's what that means. If that means that's how we're getting our information, then that's what we have to do. I think it's really important to make sure we're getting from teachers, parents, and students how they're feeling about the district so that we can get a full picture of what it is that we need to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
There's no question about the open records. That's a must. I mean, if the Neenah School District is having problems with that, then we should talk about that. But I don't think that's the problem now. Transparency, openness, it should be the top priority of every institution. How to seek out for feedback? Well, different ways could be done like that. Could be sent an email to the parents and to from the school district. Could be sent a letter with the students. I'm sure most parents don't want to receive another piece of the paper with in their backpacks. As far as they already get another with the fundraiser stuff, so another piece of paper should be fine, I guess. Now we are all into this social media. Why about having a Facebook forum there open there so people can go and put the comments in there in the Facebook media? So I think that will reach to the parents who currently have people in the school, and those households that don't have kids enrolled in the school yet, but they still pay taxes to the school district, and they are still interested in giving the feedback to the school board.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will ask each candidate to make a closing statement of no more than 2 minutes, and we'll begin with Mr. Spohr.
I think so.
All right, 2 minutes.
Okay, it's been great to hear the questions and all the different answers from people. Sometimes these types of things make it seem like everything is going wrong, and it's not. We've got a great district, great schools, great teachers, great staff. There's a lot of good things going on, and you can see it in the in test scores and performance, and kids getting scholarships, and a guy from Trans-Siberian Orchestra coming to play with our orchestras. There's always room for improvement. There's always ways to do that. And working with the staff, working with the families, working with the parents, working with the kids, there's always ways. I don't have the answers. I don't have any of the answers. I get to make some decisions, and I try to do the best job I can. But there's a lot of good in here in the district, and there's a lot to be proud of. And we're still going to move forward with that. No matter which three get elected to the board, there's just a lot of good. And I think the community pushes that board to make those decisions that help the district move forward and to keep the administration. That's probably the biggest job of the board, is to keep the administration also focused on that. Sometimes they get caught up in the details, and it's the board that needs to bring them back to look at the big picture. Thank you.
I feel like my biggest point would be passion. Passion to serve our kids, our community, our teachers, staff. I also feel like my experience with the Emergency Society and with the district, I'm pretty in touch with a wide variety of different kids and what their needs are. And I'm also familiar with the ways to help them. I can collaborate. I'd be a fresh, common sense approach, very caring, very positive, and I would be a strong advocate for all kids. I agree with Jeff. I think our school is really a jewel in the crown of our Neenah community, and it is a very good thing, and we're lucky to have it. And I would want to work very hard to keep it that way and make it the very best it can be in the state. I also think that my experience legislatively might help to be able to reach out and work on that level as well. And it would be a great honor, I think, to be a part of the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Boyer.
Thank you. Thank you very much for attending the forum. I know what a commitment it is to find that evening, and it's really a big step. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and Mrs. Olson in particular for keeping us on task. I hope this evening's been helpful. I hope you've gotten to know us better, that you've helped to decide who you're going to vote for. We need you to vote for us twice, both obviously upcoming in February and also in April. I am committed to continuing to do the work as a school board member, and it's more than preparing for the board meetings. That is a critical step, but it also includes looking for opportunities in our broader community that we can bring to our schools or bring to our teachers. It's making that careful set of decisions where we are allocating the community's resources in a way that reflects the community's priorities. It's creating an environment that allows both our students and our staff to succeed. And in focusing on those areas, when I was thinking about this meeting and kind of gathering my thoughts, I'm going to focus on improving student academic achievement, recognizing and addressing the student mental health needs, continue to support the work that is already going on to create innovative programs and courses. And I'm thinking about the Velocity Academy, I'm thinking about a number of programs that have started up at the high school, but making sure those continue to succeed and look for opportunities to add more opportunities, because it helps to meet the different learning styles of students, and it allows our staff to find the areas that they are passionate about. And finally, it prepares our students for a very challenging world. The job skills that they are acquiring now will sustain them for maybe 10 years after they get out of school. I think we all believe that we need to continue to help our students develop the skills to continue to learn and to be successful, whatever they choose in their immediate future and what they end up doing down the road. I never would have known what I was going to end up doing, so I'm out of time. Thank you again.
Thank you. Ms. Brown.
Thank you. Again, I really appreciate everybody coming out. I know this isn't everyone's favorite thing to do on a Wednesday night, but luckily for you guys, you have 7 people who really enjoy doing things like this. So you really can't go wrong. If elected, I'm definitely going to be a voice for the kids and the teachers. I'm going to make decisions based on whether or not this is something that's best for our district, best for our students, best for our teachers. And I really ask that you guys continue to be involved. Don't leave this room and quit. Keep writing those letters, come to meetings, be a part of this district, because you really are, and you guys are part of what makes us great. I'm really proud to be from Neenah, bleed red and white, and I really hope to bring some new ideas, a little bit of diversity, and a little bit of blind ambition to the board. I really want to thank the League of Women Voters and Mrs. Olson and everyone for coming out. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garcia.
I'm pleased to see that the elections are challenged. They're not just the same people running over and over, that it's actually people, new people willing to get into there, to put the new ideas to work in there. We have 7 people here that you have to choose from, with different backgrounds, to give some diversity in the board. I will definitely be a student advocate. I will strive to move the district from, emphasize more in special education. I'm glad that one board member, Mr. Kuhn, said that every child deserves an education. And I would like to see that the school district moves away from just the punitive actions for struggling students and actually look for different alternatives to deal with those students, so the students have an opportunity to continue the education there. There's a lot of things that needs to be done. Whoever gets elected is not going to achieve those goals without you being behind the board, challenging the board, talking to the board. So the board is a representation to you. The board is going to be active if you are active. The board is going to lag behind if you just let them do that. I'll be honored if you elect me to the Board of Education. My first time, and hopefully for a few more times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Hanby will give his wrap up, and then we're not quite done because Mr. Coons' statement will be read by one of the League of Women Voters representatives. Mr. Hanby.
Good evening. Thanks again all for coming and throwing your questions in. It would have been a little fun if they were a little more difficult. But above all, please go home and talk some of your friends into coming to the school board meetings and events like this. It's amazing. There's 24,000 people in Neenah and another 10 or 15,000 in the outlying community, and the 50 of you basically represent the whole. So that's just the saddest thing I can think of, That is the reason I got involved with the board. That's the reason I've committed the last 13 years of every other Tuesday night to the board. You know, to most of the people who are going to be involved, it really matters not whether you're on the board or not. The whopping $250 a month, I mean, you can imagine a nest egg you can roll up at that rate. So really, it's a volunteer position, and it's fortunate that we have 7 people, again, willing to do it. It's always fun when there's enough people. We have to have a primary. I hope that you've heard enough from me or about me to make a decision on my behalf. If there's more you'd like to know, please reach out and contact me. I would desperately love that. But more than anything else, if we can possibly get more of our community to come regularly to the board meetings and have the regular dialogue that we've basically talked about all this evening. Again, we shouldn't be making decisions at the administrative office in any central vacuum. It's not a fault of the board, it's not a fault of the administration, but when there's just not a proper dialogue with an appropriate number of our community, you're making a decision based on the small portion of the community. I followed this for 13 years, and regardless of the outcome, I commit to you that I'll continue to do the same. The school board meetings, with a few exceptions, are scheduled on the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock. And this week we have the good fortune you can still come tomorrow to the board meeting because we postponed because of snow.
And now we have Mr. Coons' statement.
I'm a school board member because of passion. I'm passionate about community and our greatest community asset, our children. It takes a village to raise a child, and we each play our part. Mine is to understand the nuances of public education and the sometimes frustrating route it takes. How we treat one another matters. Opportunities we offer, not just to our own children, but to all children, allow us to grow as a community. Public education defines our future, catapults our children into society, and binds a community together. I can't control what happens in the rest of the world. I can't even control what happens here. But I can play a small role in helping kids love school as much as I did, to see they are part of something larger. But passion isn't enough. I've managed many people and projects. I can see outcomes through the hazy distance of time and possibilities. I can think in big terms and relate in small settings, whether determining the future of a program or listening to one person's concerns. I'm also good with numbers, deciphering dollar signs when other information becomes murky. Education is defined more and more by expenses and receipts. A school board member must understand this language, if only to see the students that clearly stand behind those numbers. I learn and grow through conversation. Debate isn't a dirty word, but a means to come together for a common goal and find our way through a series of sometimes difficult decisions to determine what is best for kids. Our schools need defending, nurturing, and a little tough love. I am willing and able to offer all three.
Thank you. Again, thank you to the Neenah Public Library for the room, to the League of Women Voters.